Hello, folks. My name is Max, your occasional host of the most. Happy to join you again this week. And with me, of course, is the world famous Liz Cross, psychic medium, and the self-proclaimed reincarnation of Genghis Khan, Joan of Arc, and Mr. Churchill. Liz, I always knew you were a powerful lady, but wow, that's quite a pedigree.
That's really funny. I'm neither of those. I'm not any of those. So that's so funny. You know, you asked me once, why is it a lot of times in past lives, people get this Joan of Arc quite character that came up for a lot of women. That was a really interesting question.
Yeah, and Cleopatra, that's also an archetypal reincarnation. I think I've read about like literally hundreds of women, especially who claim to have been Joan of Arc or Cleopatra in a previous life. And what came out of that again? It's just like people associating themselves with a certain archetype, right? Or
yes, it was. Yes, yeah.
And while we're on that topic, why is it actually that we always incarnate or reincarnate basically in on kind of a linear time frame? So, you know, you die this year and you'll be reincarnating again like a few years later. But why can't I be reincarnated in the year 1900 or somewhere a million years ago? Why does it have to be according to our experience of time? Or isn't that the case?
That is an excellent question. I've never thought about that. Why is it can we only reincarnate in the future? Yes, we can only reincarnate in the future. We can't reincarnate in the past.
Why?
The past is locked away. That's locked away. The timelines are locked away, past timelines. So you can remote view those timelines, and you can, as a psychic, dip into past lives on those timelines, but you can never recreate those timelines because of evolution. If we didn't keep going forward, we wouldn't have the scale of evolution that we experience. And evolution is extremely important to the soul. You know, your experiences become very different. So, for example, this lifetime, a lot of people struggle. Their soul struggle is with technology. And what I mean by that is a lot of men especially have had lifetimes as warriors and in war and fighting and, you know, hunter-gatherers and tribal warfare. And now suddenly they're in this lifetime where, okay, so we're just going to stand here and we're going to type and we're going to do all of our work online all day. That's really difficult for souls that have had many lifetimes as soldiers and at war. And the conscious mind is really trying to push forward. But the soul is like, what is all this? What do you mean technology? I'm not used to living in this. It's really interesting.
That's interesting. Okay. By the way, Liz, am I on speaker view or are we both continuously in the picture or just checking in between?
I haven't hit any buttons, so I think it's speaker view.
I know you hit the buttons all the time, so just inquiring. So, folks, the plan for today was to finally do part 2 of the oceans. But before we do, and before I reintroduce the topic, I just want to check in on a very interesting sequence of events, considering volcanic eruptions that happened recently. A few weeks ago, Mauna Loa in Hawaii erupted. And then a few days ago, both the Stromboli volcano in Italy and the Semeru, I'm just looking to my side here for the names, Semeru volcano on Indonesia, both erupted on the same day. Now, this is actually not really that uncommon, but considering the strange times we live in, I thought maybe it would be interesting to see if you could see, Liz, what Mother Earth is up to. Are there some big tensions in the Earth's plates, or maybe we can just see if we're about to hit by a Christmas disaster of mega proportions, or whether this is just a very normal event. Because again, it does happen that several volcanoes sometimes erupt at the same time in different places around the world. So who can we ask?
That's a good question. So let me probe the volcano in Hawaii to see why it's erupting. Even though it's not a human, it still has a consciousness. And I'm going to tune in now to that. Why are you erupting? It's time. It's time to erupt. It goes through cycles. And it's just the time to erupt. It's almost like eruption is a cleansing technique for the volcano. It's out with the old and then comes the new. So that's really interesting. You know what?
Yeah, I think the last time Mauna Loa erupted was in 1984. So a lot of all these emotions from the remainder of the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s have to be cleansed out. Is this basically the rhythm of Mauna Loa every 30 years or so?
It's certainly part of the cycle, yes. And what is interesting also is whenever I do readings out of Hawaii, and I love doing readings from Hawaii, the Hawaiians always have like the most phenomenal questions. They're very spiritual. You know, back in the day, during one of those readings, we got that a lot of people had this deep respect for the volcanoes, and you had to really, going back quite far, people would take gifts and leave the gifts at the base of the volcano. People would pray to the volcano, and they would offer this mark of respect to the volcano. Now, fast forward to several generations later, they're not doing that on the scale or on the level that they used to. And the volcano can pick up on that, right? So you should always have a healthy respect for volcanoes if you live around them. So yes, but this is just a cleansing. Somebody on the Discord actually posted, I believe, their own personal photographs of the eruptions, and it looked beautiful. I mean, it was this red, and it was just so pretty. So those of us on the Discord, be sure to check that out. So yeah, that's what I'm getting. It's like a cleansing. It's a cycle. It's a renewal. It's a renewal. So whereas humans, we leave the earth plane and we reincarnate, the volcanoes can't do that. And the volcanoes have to just cleanse here on the earth plane.
That's very interesting. Are volcanoes somehow, or can volcanoes respond to the general emotional vibe on the planet? For example, I think plenty of psychics have, I think, claimed that one of the reasons that volcanoes are erupting more than they used to, at least it seems, is because all the rage, all the anger, all the fear on the planet. Is there a connection, or do we overestimate ourselves and are volcanoes just doing their own thing in their own time?
That's a great question. Do you pick up on the emotional state of what's going on around the planet? Yes. Well, it's telling me volcanoes are extremely sensitive, and that also prompts an eruption. So if the vibe is really bad and really low, it will go through this cleansing phase. It's a reminder too. It's also a reminder that your time here is limited, to respect those things around you. It has all sorts of life lessons embodied in a volcanic eruption.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, or I'm saying absolutely, but it just feels kind of intuitively true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have those three volcanoes. I mean, there was some time between them, between Mauna, Loa, and the other two. But, it's kind of interesting. Three major volcanoes blowing up on three different Earth plates, or three different continents, I should say. Is there a connection between the three outbursts?
That's a great question. Is there a connection between the three outbursts? Yes, there is some sort of alignment there. There is a spiritual connection for sure, and it's to really wake people up. So one volcanic eruption is not that big of a deal, but three at the same time, that's a wake-up call that the earth is going through this spiritual cleansing.
And is this maybe the harbinger of a major earth event, maybe a major earthquake in the somewhere or at several locations around the world? Is there more? Is this basically is the word an omen or a harbinger? A harbinger, I would say. As a non-native speaker, I'm just trying in my best English here.
Well, most Americans don't even use the word harbinger, so I would give you like A+++ on that.
Let me just use the word sign then. A sign. Sometimes I overcomplicate things all the time. People tell me so.
No. I like the word harbinger. That's very poetic of you. Well, so for those of you that don't know what harbinger means, because I've had to look it up myself, a person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another. So the question is this a signaling of more to come?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer I got back from the volcano in Hawaii is yes.
Can you elaborate?
Can you elaborate? I think there's going to be some earthquakes.
Out of the ordinary earthquakes, strength-wise, anything over, let's say, 7.5 on the Richter scale?
For the ordinary, as far as earthquakes are concerned, anything above 7.5 on the Richter scale. We're going to see that anytime soon. Not anytime soon, but it's definitely some sort of preparation for when the earthquake does happen. Let me ask the volcano this. Are you bound by space and time? No. That I don't know why Spirit just said that to me. They're not bound by space and time, so I thought I would ask that question. And they're not. They're not bound by space and time.
What does that mean concretely?
So I'm trying to get a real, pinpointed answer of when these earthquakes are happening. And they don't actually know because they don't feel like they reside in space and time like you and I do.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Is that something specific to volcanoes?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
Is that something specific, a specific tribute of volcanoes, that they're outside of space and time?
Is that something specific to volcanoes? No. No. Is the ocean within space and time? No, the ocean is not within space and time either. There's no reason for volcanoes and oceans and earthquakes and things like that. Do earthquakes have space and time? Oh, yes, it just corrected me. Earthquakes are bound by space and time, but certainly like volcanoes and oceans, they're not bound by space and time. Now, as you know, when we drop the physical body and we go into the spirit world, you are no longer bound by space and time there either, because it's irrelevant. You're not bound by gravity. But that's weird to me, because surely volcanoes and oceans are bound by gravity. They are, but time and space are irrelevant. So I don't know where you want to go with that one.
Being here in this moment in the video, unfortunately, I'm not sensing a moment of genius to ask the correct follow-up question. Let me park that for a sec while we swiftly move on. And maybe an apt question here would be, are there any more volcanic eruptions coming in the next weeks and months, like major ones? That are kind of maybe related to the other eruptions.
Okay, I got a no on that.
Okay. Could the I think all the eruptions, I think they have more or less died down already, but they it could kind of they could re-erupt. But do you expect any atmospheric trouble, like really like what happened with Mount Pinatubo in the early 90s, for those of you old enough to remember, where there is a slight, well, it happened even in Tonga earlier this year, where there's some climatic trouble, the earth cooling a little bit, or just less light getting through. Do you foresee that kind of an effect from these three outbursts?
No.
Okay. Well, that's good. And is there anything we need to know about these? What if there is a message attached to it, besides becoming more aware of our environment and to respect it more? What other message is has the event to tell us, if anything?
It's a spiritual awakening. It really is. Not only is it a cleansing for these volcanoes, but it's a spiritual awakening for those that live around the volcanoes. Okay. Yes, that's what I'm getting.
And do the volcanoes collectively feel that the surrounding population have taken heed? Another great expression of this warning.
Do you feel like the population around the volcanoes has taken heed of this? Yes, very much so. Yes, it's put them on edge. Yes.
Okay. Any question that Spirit feels I should ask but forgot to?
Well, I asked if volcanoes had a soul, and I got no, they don't have a soul, because I'm just wondering, but their consciousness is really big. I mean, it's a massive amount of energy. It's a massive amount of consciousness. And it's also a very big attractor for UFO activity.
Oh, that's something I completely forgot about. Of course. Excellent. So let's explore that a little bit. Why is that the case?
Why is that the case? That it's an attractor for UFO activity? they're studying the energy. So, aliens and UFOs can see energy, whereas we can't really see that. I mean, I can see energy, but it took me a long time spirit gave that to me, and I'm very grateful. But it took a long time for spirit to give that to me. But they see energy, and they like to study the energy around it, because they're saying to me that it's a predictive tool. They can pick up on the signals that are being sent from the volcano. It's almost like the volcano is constantly communicating back and forth with those that live around it. It's always talking with everyone. Now, whether the humans, and I feel like it's a no, that a lot of humans living around these volcanoes are oblivious to this communication, but also the aliens can actually communicate with this type of energy. And they just said to me, we can program that energy as well.
Wow. So what would be the nature of the energetic messages that volcanoes send out?
It's another way to communicate to humans if the UFOs do reprogram the energy fields. So it's almost a way to collectively send out messages is what I'm getting, in such a way that if they want to open up the communication with UFOs, if they want to open up the communication with aliens, a lot of people, they can program acceptance into that energy field. And it just becomes a slow ripple effect of acceptance, especially for the people that live around the volcanoes.
And you're saying that aliens can program that energy into the volcano, and then with the outburst, that energy is transmitted out? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's what they're telling me. And I feel like the volcano, everything is based upon mathematics, right? So as long as you can figure out the codes, the mathematical codes, you can program energy. You can program whatever it is you want to send out. You can program the atmosphere. Now, the problem with the atmosphere that there's too many mathematical equations for, to try to reprogram the atmosphere. But certainly with regards to volcanoes, you can reprogram them and send out messages to the human population living around those volcanoes. And eventually, like ripples, in an ocean, or, well, the ocean doesn't really have ripples, does it? But in a pond or anything like that, it eventually spills over. If you keep reprogramming and sending out messages, it eventually will spill off of that island, speaking of Hawaii, and onto the mainland, and it just ripples out the acceptance. So if they want to, that is effectively a way to mind control. If they were that sophisticated and wanted to mind control the humans, and they were constantly plugging away at the AI, but they can definitely reprogram the energy. Not within the volcano. I'm talking about almost like the biofield of the volcano.
And to the extent that you can perceive this, is the nature of the programming always benign?
No.
Can you give an example of a malevolent use of that type of programming?
Yeah, that's a good question. What is an example? Like fear, greed, discord, political infighting, going against the grain. They can put whatever they want in there. Do you mainly, how often do you get reprogrammed by UFO? It's frequent. It's frequent. That's why there's a lot of alien activity around volcanoes. No, I did not know that.
So, wow. So, whereas humans maybe use the TV or media to program, to put like fear and resentment and whatever into people, aliens do that by means of volcano.
Oh gosh. Yes, I didn't even think about that. That reminds me of a Lynn Buchanan question. And for those of you who don't know who Lynn Buchanan is, he's one of the original Stargate remote viewers. And they said, have you ever taken a large collective entity and tried to reprogram it? And he's like, I don't need to do that. There's more powerful ways. And he said, propaganda. So yeah, you're right about that. That's very interesting, but they often send, signals out from volcanoes, which is why they like to be in close proximity to those volcanoes. I had no idea of that.
Interesting. What other means do aliens have to their disposal to do that kind of programming? Because I'm sure that there's other ways besides volcanoes, right?
Oh yeah, well, I've said this time and time again, they have the ability to hijack your consciousness if you allow that. It's how much you allow.
On an individual level, that is, but I'm talking about like some kind of a mass programming.
Oh, a mass programming?
What other possibilities do they have than using volcanoes? It's really very extraordinary, this topic, but
yeah. What other tools do you have other than using volcanoes? Really, they don't use other tools because, again, the mathematical equations are very complex and spread out, whereas volcanic energy is so concentrated and so robust. It's easier to program that energy in front or around or above, hovering around the volcano, which is like a biofield. And if anybody doesn't know what a biofield is, we all have a biofield. It's how we send and receive signals all the time, how we send out energy and receive energy. The biofield is typically, sometimes people see colors in the biofield, which is called an aura. So the biofield is a bit like, it does contain the aura, but it's very much more powerful than an aura. So the volcano also has this fantastic, powerful biofield.
Interesting. So we often I think all of us have seen these videos where UFOs fly into a volcano. Why is that necessary? Are they? Is it necessary for them to really go literally into the heart of the volcano to do the programming, or is that for other reasons?
Is it necessary to fly into? Yes, it is. It's necessary to fly in, and they have ways. So what they do is they capture parts of that energy, almost like they bottle it, but they have a way to capture that energy and then take it back to where they are and decode it. And that's how they're programming and figuring out these mathematical equations to reprogram human consciousness that way. Or certainly, I mean, let's just say they don't have that much ability to completely mind control and reprogram a collective human consciousness, but they certainly send out their messages through volcanic activity and energy.
So would you say that overall it's used more for benign messages than for some kind of malevolent programming?
Is it used more for benign messages? No, it's more malevolent.
Okay, so can you maybe tune into that recent Hawaii eruption on Mauna Loa? Was there any malevolent messaging associated with that particular outburst?
Well, fear. fear can definitely enter into that equation. And I'm like, but why, if they want to boost communication with humans, why on earth would they want to instill fear within people? And it was just a good time to do so, is what I'm getting back. It's easy to attach negative to negative. Okay, so that makes sense to me. So a volcanic eruption, even though the volcano, it's very positive and very cleansing, it has a negative effect on those living around it, in a way of fear. So they just sort of magnified that fear. And it's almost like an experiment, that they are running to see how strong or how much that fear can really penetrate other individuals. Now, my thing is, you always have to try to take a negative and turn it into a positive. It's very, very hard to do. And that is when you have reached a stage of enlightenment. So say, for instance, you lost a load of money. Somebody stole thousands of dollars from your crypto wallet or your exchange or whatever, and your bank account. Now, that's not a good event. But in hindsight, looking back, that may have transformed your consciousness in many different ways. And maybe you can look back on that event as a positive. Now, that's very hard to do, to look back on events and see them as a positive. But those that are able to do that, to look back on those events as a positive, have reached a stage of consciousness enlightenment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. I don't know. I feel we've pretty much explored this this avenue. Sure, I'm missing a critical question here, but well, that was interesting. Maybe another question about just the volcanoes in general. Obviously, they have a very destructive force about them. A volcanic eruption can be very detrimental to the people living around the volcano, and even to the climate. On the other hand, volcanic ash is very, very fertile, and it can be there's lots of minerals in it, and I don't know if a volcano makes for very good agricultural land. I don't think so, but it is very fertile soil normally. So what is the point of what is the spiritual meaning behind volcanoes in general, or the point to their existence?
That's a good question. What is the spiritual meaning behind their existence, volcanic existence in general? It's to cleanse the earth, is what it is. It's a cleansing. It's a cleansing of the consciousness. It's a cleansing of the earth. It's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like a restructuring in a way. And it is very fertile. It's like a release. It's a release of pent up emotions, right? So it usually these eruptions, but for the fact that it can destroy people's lives around it, usually these eruptions are very healthy. So, take what you will with that one.
Yeah, interesting. So you could argue it's kind of a relief valve for the planet and everything that's going on it.
Yes, and that's a really good way of putting it. Are you a release valve for the planet? Yes, very much so. Very much so. And, maybe those of you, because we do have a lot of Hawaiians that listen, we do. Those of you in Hawaii can comment in the YouTube comments down below and give us some more information about maybe the historical context of how people used to treat the volcanoes. I feel that volcanoes back in the day, many, many moons ago, were treated almost like gods.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm going to do one more attempt to look for a future disaster, because I know in the spiritual community, people love to talk about conspiracies, and they love to talk about future Earth changes. So I'm going to do an ultimate attempt here. Can you focus maybe on that Semeru volcano in Indonesia?
Yes. Okay.
So different psychics, including the team on Crypto Viewing. Check that out, folks. I love that site, and can warmly recommend their work. Those guys, I think they alluded several times to a future very strong earthquake and a resulting tsunami in somewhere in the area of Indonesia, Malaysia, and New Guinea. Do you see that? You could assume that volcanic eruptions would be harbingers. There we have that word again, of that about to happen. So is Samuru connected to an upcoming event like that?
Are you connected to an upcoming event like that? Yes, yes, but is it going to be anytime soon? See, they don't have any concept of space or time. So I was like, is it going to be anytime soon? And he's like, it could be.
Can you, as a remote viewer, kind of put a time frame on it, or maybe it's still, is it fixed on the timeline or not? Is it just a matter of things that we do or think when it will happen, or is it still even something that could not happen?
Let's move Indonesia and that area out by a year. So let's go December the 6th. So that's exactly 1 year from today, December the 6th, 2023, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Has there been a massive earthquake in the Indonesian area? Several.
And what constitutes major? Is it above 8 on the Richter scale?
Is it above 8 on the Richter scale? No. But around 3 or 4. So
that's not very heavy.
Yeah, but because there's so many of them, there's so many of these coming. It just has a compounding effect. I mean, don't forget, I don't know if you've ever been in an earthquake. I mean, earthquakes are have you?
Yeah, several. Yes. In China and Japan, it happened frequently there. I remember even, that's an interesting story. When I was living in Beijing, there was an earthquake. I think it was around 2006 or 7. Might have been. I need to, I was in the central business district where you have several major high rises, and they were swaying, which was like very, very scary. And I experienced an earthquake in Japan once, in Tokyo, after which this would have been, I think, in 2009. After which a volcano erupted near Tokyo, not Mount Fuji, but another volcano, and I think I might have also experienced a minor one in Los Angeles once. So yeah, I've been few, but nothing major. All kind of more in the still entertaining category and quirky experience. Nothing traumatic.
It's kind of scary though when you're in the middle of it. It's
a very weird feeling. Yeah, it's very weird feeling. It's strange.
It really is. I've actually experienced it twice, both times in the UK. Once when I was a little girl and I was staying at my nan's house in Birmingham, and it was really early in the morning, and my nan comes running into my bedroom, and she says, my family called me Elizabeth. Elizabeth, are you okay? And I was like, yes. She says, and I thought that maybe you had gotten up and you had banged against a wall or something. And I said, no. And she goes, oh, no, that must have been an earthquake. And then another time was very funny when I was working for Scotland Yard police dispatch, and with the whole building started shaking. And of course, we were like, what is that? And then the phone starts ringing off the hook. Oh my God, it's moving. Help me, send the police. It's moving. I don't know what's happening. So we had thousands of phone calls after that. But yes, it is unnerving though. It is very unnerving for those that are listening that have never experienced an earthquake. It's very surreal. It's very, I don't know how to describe it. It's frightening, and there's nothing you can do. And I feel like those earthquakes are also yet again another reminder of, hey, you down there, human, you're not so powerful that you think you are. You're not all you're cracked up to be. Just this is another reminder that your life and everything can be gone within a few seconds.
Yeah, they're very humbling events, I would say, and I think also what most people don't know is that the Richter scale is actually exponential. So like a 7 is 10 times more stronger than a 6, and an 8 is 10 times more stronger than a 7. So, there's, for example, I think they're still predicting in the very, very long run that, in the Pacific Northwest, they could have something over a 9, which would basically change it into the whole scene into basically, every building would be destroyed. It wasn't earthquake proof. But we're going. Well, anyway, let me then ask this in another way. Do you see an earthquake happening over higher than an 8 on the Richter scale in somewhere in that area in the next few years?
Is there going to be a big event higher than 8 on the Richter scale in the next few years in that area? No, certainly not within the next couple of years. No, that I'm getting right now on the current timeline.
Okay. How about elsewhere in the inhabited world? Maybe the Western US or, the Chile or where else, Italy, we have big earthquakes in Europe from time to time.
Yes, there will be one, but is it going to affect? No, I feel like this is going to be somewhere that is uninhabited.
Okay. Can you pinpoint it anywhere on the globe?
Yes, I believe it's going to be somewhere around Antarctica.
Oh, Antarctica. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have no idea if earthquakes happen frequently there or not. Okay, Liz, I think we kind of, I'm sure, well, there's a lot more people will now think like, yeah, why don't you ask about earth disasters here and there? That's such a, you can talk for days about stuff that can go wrong on the planet. And we'll get to that for sure. We'll do more videos devoted to that topic. Liz, shall we call it a day, or do you still want to do maybe 10 minutes of ocean?
I think we can call it a day. Dare I try to do a prediction on the Netherlands versus Argentina game on Friday?
Yes, please.
No, I was teasing. But I
Oh,
can certainly try to figure that out. Who is the let's group Holland as a whole and find out what happens. So let's move Holland, and this could be totally bombed out, right? My prediction, but I'm just gonna do it for fun, just for you, Max, just for you. Oh,
thank you.
please enlighten me. Why, when your flag is red, white, and blue, why do the Dutch wear orange?
That is, well, our royal family is named the House of Orange.
Okay. Why?
I don't think they're, they're in your UK history, William of Orange. It's just a family name. There is no why.
Oh, okay. I always wondered that. I was like, okay, their flags are red, white, and blue, but their uniforms are orange. And there's always something about orange and Dutch. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's kind of the color that we identify with here, and we love our flag as well. I think most people do, at least not the woke types, but yeah. No. So that goes back direct. That's directly connected with the royal family, which most of us still love very dearly here.
Yes. Well, thank you for that enlightenment. And is it there where the royal family, you can see them riding their bicycles occasionally? Is that true? Do they mingle around in regular society?
No, they don't. But
No.
the Queen Juliana, who reigned until 1980, she was known to go out by bike, to just ride her bike through, The Hague and Amsterdam. But then, of course, she would be surrounded by, even in those more innocent days, she would be surrounded already by bodyguards on bikes and several cars were like around. No, but we do have a prime minister. Our current prime minister. He goes to work by bike. He lives very modestly, and several ministers do as well. But it's becoming more difficult because, like elsewhere in the world, people distrust politicians more and more. People are more hateful, spiteful for the wrong or right reasons. I'm not judging on that, because I'm sure in the audience there's people that distrust their leaders a lot, and that's okay. But unfortunately, they receive more and more threats against their safety, which I find a great pity, because this used to be a country where people used to live together, very peacefully, and it was a very egalitarian society in the grand scheme of things, compared to other countries. It's sad that you just see stuff that you're used to from basically from the States coming over here decades later, but we always kind of follow in your footsteps, for better and for worse.
Well, the old expression, when America coughs, Europe sneezes. So there you go.
Yes. Yeah. I think we more or less say that about Germany here, but because our economies are very much intertwined. But whatever country sneezes, we get a cold here, because we're just a tiny, open economy. We're always the first to get screwed, whatever happens. But also the first ones to take advantage when there is a development, because as kind of a small trade nation, you're able to maneuver very quickly, which is an advantage. But you don't have the power and the clout that a big country has, like Germany, France, the UK, the US, China. But I love this little place with all its faults and some checkered history that we have. I'm still proud to call myself a Dutchman.
Amsterdam is wonderful. I don't want to go off topic too much, but Amsterdam, when I went to Amsterdam, I loved every second of it. And what is so funny, the Dutch are quite a humorous group because we happened to be walking through the red light district. And yeah. I must give your prostitutes credit. Most of them are very beautiful in the window on display, right? They're just in the window. I don't know. Do they still do that?
It's the city government the municipality is cracking down on prostitutes, but I have to say in recent decades, most of our prostitutes came from either Latin America or Eastern Europe. So we can't really claim them to be our prostitutes. Dutch women, thank God, they have the plenty of economic opportunity to not having to be prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them are actually foreigners. So
there's a very interesting documentary which is about these twin sisters, Dutch, that ended up in the red light district, and they worked there for 50 years. And I believe, don't quote me on this, and I don't want any hate comments down in the comment field. Liz, you got it wrong. You're so stupid. It's Meet the Fokkens, Fokkens or ONS, and it was a really lovely documentary, even though it is very kind of X-rated. But what is so funny, when I was in Amsterdam, there was this particularly, not as glamorous prostitute sitting in the window, and she was obviously trying to get customers. And these Dutch workmen were walking by, the big planks of wood, what they use to cover up like holes in pavements and things like that on a temporary measure. They actually put one in front of her window and nailed it to the front, and which was very rude, but they were laughing, and I was like, oh, okay, they kind of have a British sense of humor too. But yeah, and she was very angry, and I don't know what happened because it all erupted in Dutch language, and I don't speak Dutch, but she came out in her knickers and her bra, and she was shouting at them.
That does sound like a very typical Amsterdam red light scene, yeah. But it's not what it was. That place has kind of turned into, the government has cracked down on prostitution for arguably the right reasons, and that whole district turned into a huge tourist trap, and so has the whole Amsterdam. Like, I'm not going there anymore. I have several friends there, and I'm there once a month to just hang out. But this is a super stupid comparison, but just like New York and the US, that place is not representative for what's going on elsewhere in the country, in many different respects. So,
you were attracting the wrong type of tourist. That was the problem.
Absolutely. It's just like Eastern and Southern European kids coming to smoke dope, and I think that place has so much to offer. It's like one of the top museum capitals in the world, together with New York and St. Petersburg, Russia. And they don't market that very well. But anyway, we're going really off the rails here.
Yeah. But anyway, let's find out the results. So I must admit, there will be a lot of hopium emotion injected into this because I do want the Netherlands to win. So I'm going to put the Netherlands out Friday, which is December the 8th, 2022.
Ninth, I think.
Let's go 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Drum roll. Did the Netherlands beat Argentina on Friday in the World Cup? They won.
Really? Wow. By how much?
Oh, I don't know.
That's a little bit too specific, perhaps. But
well, I don't like to say that also, because then people start trying to wager money on goals and all that silly stuff, right?
No, yeah.
I feel like it's a very tight game. It's a nail biter. I feel like it's very difficult for the Dutch. You still have things going against you, which is, your team has been hit by the flu.
Yep.
But overall, I feel, are you sure that the Netherlands won the game? Positive. So overall, I feel like your team will win on Friday. Now, bearing in mind that could be a completely wrong prediction because I'm very emotionally involved because you're my friend, Max, and I want the Netherlands to do well. Nothing against Argentina, just because I want Max to send me a text message saying, "You were right, Liz, we won."
And I will. And last question, do you think we actually have a shot at winning the championship?
The Netherlands have a shot at winning the championship? Yes.
Like a decent probability, or just trying pushing the edge here and pushing the edge?
Very decent probability. I feel like your chances are very decent. I do. You know, the Netherlands traditionally is a very good team. You did have a player that looked just like Jeroen van der Sloot. I remember a couple of World Cups ago. I was like, oh my God, that looks like Jeroen van der Sloot. If you know who he is. Yeah.
That's not the best citizen we produced here in recent decades. No, yeah.
No, well, Jeroen van der Sloot, of course. Is Dutch still in control of Aruba? Is it still part of the Dutch, I guess, Commonwealth, for lack of a better word, or is Aruba an independent country?
Yeah, Aruba has kind of a separate status. That's all. That's not an interesting matter, but they are basically still part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Well, yeah, but you know, the Netherlands has a good shot. What would be great is if England versus the Netherlands. I don't know. I'm getting that England is going to lose to France on Saturday. I
remember a horrible game, England versus the Netherlands, where we lost. We were like slaughtered by England, 4-1 it was, and this is ages ago, maybe even in the 90s. But yeah, let's see. And France versus England. I think a big part of our audience cares very little about soccer.
No, they probably switched this video off a long time ago. But anyway, that is my World Cup prediction for you, Max, on Friday. I will be watching the game. Good luck to the Netherlands. And thank you, as always, for your time. I'm sorry I overslept today, but thank you very much.
That's fine. You're not German or Dutch. Like, we always show up like a minute before. We're very timely. But you have it's fine. No, so again, folks, we hope you enjoyed the video. The idea was to talk about oceans, but this topic is getting postponed. We'll get to it one day. And we hope you enjoyed this little video about volcanoes and a bit about earthquakes and a bit about soccer and about the word harbinger, which for the record, I used correctly.
Well done. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye, folks.
Everyone.